Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the Wrestling Classic here, and Justin with Danny. We're here for the Squared Circle DNA podcast, and this week we're talking about everything Attitude Era, and when we thought the Attitude Era began, what moments we thought they kicked off the Attitude and everything Attitude Era, which is, the people's favorite era. Everyone loves the Attitude Era. Everyone talks about the Attitude Era till this day. I see it all the time. Everyone's like, nothing will ever compare to the Attitude Era, and that's what we're talking about today. Just Danny.
Hey, what's going on? Justin.
We can call me just Justin. I don't know.
We do like a little echo on there.
Justin. Like that's like a tongue twister if you say that like 10 times. I think I don't know.
Yeah,
but
bro.
Yeah, man. This is all about the Attitude Era, man. I think this would be fun because I've gotten a lot of comments about people telling me when they thought the Attitude Era started. We're gonna share our opinions about when the Attitude Era started, and we'll factor in some other people's ideas.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been a cool week. I mean, we've been posting all the clips on Instagram, of different Attitude Era moments. It's just really cool stuff. It's gonna be fun. I figured, like you said, everybody loves the Attitude Era. Why not start off the Square Circle DNA podcast with the Attitude Era?
And we're gonna talk about the Attitude Era definitely, but we're also gonna avoid factoring the impact that WCW had on the Attitude Era, because I think both of us can agree that without WCW and Monday Nitro, there probably would never have been an Attitude Era. If we recall back in those days, 1995 was a really weird year in the WWF. I believe even my older brother was like, dude, nobody was watching in 1995. But
it's very true.
But and then 96 was still a little cartoony. You had, the Duke the Dumpster Drozy, and you had the Doink the Clowns, and you had all the gimmicks like the Goon and all these guys. And what the Attitude Era represented was something that kicked off because of Nitro and WCW. It brought in that reality and that edginess and that honestly straight up just like, I'm trying to think of the word, degenerate. I know that sounds very
cliche, but
cliche, but a very degenerate attitude in the Attitude Era, which probably did kick off a little bit with Degeneration X, but
yeah, man,
it was different, and it's one of the most popular times in professional wrestling. They're still putting out DVDs, and the Attitude Era characters are still over as hell, 20 odd years later.
Yeah, I mean, look at like Chalkline. Pretty much all of their jackets are Attitude Era people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's just so many different things, and I feel like the Attitude Era is what is helping keep wrestling mainstream to an extent. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody knows Stone Cold Steve Austin. Everybody knows The Rock. Everybody knows who The Undertaker is. People may not know DX individually, but they know the Crotch Chop. They know Suck It. You know what I mean? They know Kane or Glenn Jacobs.
the future mayor of Knox County,
right?
I don't know. Is that more corporate Kane or is that Kane? But yeah, like the impact of the Attitude Era, that's when Raw became Raw's War for that period of time. And I think once again, as much as we can give credit to WCW, we're going to avoid talking about WCW, the impact of the NWO and all that, because we're focusing on when we think the Attitude Era started in the WWF, when they chose to change direction. And there's so many different answers. I think it's a very subjective question because it's subjective to your opinion. Like one person might say it started then, another person might say it started at this point, but there's no real right answer. It's just, when did you first realize that, hey, this is the change in the guard? Like I think this is gonna be a fun conversation. I think we're gonna go by giving each other's own opinions first, and then seeing where we go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure, man.
How about we start with you?
Yeah.
When did you think the Attitude Era started?
So I feel that there were seeds planted. However, for me, the official start of the Attitude Era was November 4th, 1996. Okay. To be exact. And if you're not familiar with the date, I'll give you 3 seconds to see. I won't hold it against you.
You said November 4th?
Yep.
Oh, I'm very familiar with the date. That's my birthday.
Insert Conrad Thompson laughs.
I am 110% familiar with that date. Thank you for asking me. Yes, November 4th is my birthday. Thank you.
Well, Justin, I'm not sure if you're aware. On your birthday in 1996, okay, Brian Pillman drew a 9mm gun and supposedly shot Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, the infamous, I like to call it the Brian Pillman 9mm segment.
Yep.
Pillman's got a gun, that's honestly that's a really good place to start it. I like now you totally messed up my thought process. Look, the sirens. You hear the sirens?
That's so fitting. Good job, Criminals of Vancouver.
I forgot to shut my window because for anyone that doesn't know, this has been a gong show trying to get to this podcast recorded today. We went all over the place, but I forgot to shut my window, and they heard us talk about Brian Pillman and his 9mm, and the cops are outside now. I don't know if anyone's kicking over kiddie pools or anything, but
you can't make this up.
You can't, but. No, that's actually a really good one. That totally changes anything I was gonna say. Like, that's huge. But do you think like that was the starting of the Attitude Era? Because as big as that was, and like for anyone that doesn't know, this for the younger followers though, basically what it was when Brian Pillman came to the WWF, he briefly had a short rivalry with his good old Hollywood blonde buddy from WCW, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I believe at this point Austin already shattered.
Yes,
Brian Pillman's ankle.
That's why Pillman was home.
Because Pillman was siding with Bret Hart and the Hart family over Stone Cold. And don't get me wrong, they barely referenced them as a tag team as a Hollywood Blonde, just as a mark. I'm letting you guys know that. But but it was just kind of like a thing like, Pillman was siding with Bret Hart and stuff, and then Austin. And Pillman was legitimately hurt in reality. I think he got in a car accident or something. His ankle was actually legitimately hurt.
Yep.
But on screen, they had it where Austin was the one that shattered Pillman's ankle. And with a chair doing the classic putting the chair on his ankle and jumping off the top rope, stomping in the chair, which shattered Brian Pillman's ankle. I don't remember exactly why Austin went to Pillman's house.
Because they had that feud, and Austin was upset, like you said, that Pillman was siding with the Hart Foundation. I can't tell you the 100% with detail, he said this and she said that and so on and so forth. But that was basically the premise of it. They were having a beef, and then Austin said that he's going to take out Pillman.
And this was prior to the Hart Foundation, because Davey Boy Owen was still anti-Bret Hart.
Correct.
This is Bret Hart coming back after WrestleMania 12. His first big rivalry was against Stone Cold, and they were going to go at it at the Survivor Series, but they had Pillman involved in it, and Pillman was siding with Bret.
Yep.
And I remember it was one specific program. It might have been on like a Saturday show, like Superstars. I don't think it actually happened on Raw when he shattered Pillman's ankle. Yep. And was Shotgun Saturday Night out yet? I don't know.
No, it wasn't. That was that happened on Superstars.
That happened on Superstars, right? So then, Austin went over. Then I think, like, obviously, if you follow the Wrestling Classic, I've posted it a bunch of times. You've probably seen it on YouTube, Instagram, on the WWE Network. If you actually watch the old Raws and stuff, like, you'll see that segment where Austin's beating up all these people outside of Pillman's house. He flips over Flying Brian. Shout out to Flying Brian Pillman Jr., who's wrestling in the independent scene right now, a good friend of mine. But he flipped over Flying Brian Jr.'s kiddie pool and threw his little toy truck, little tricycle thing around, and beat up some people. Came to the house. Pillman pulled out a gun. Raw went off the air. It was pretty epic for the time. It was not something you see all the time. But of course, like I said, we don't want to talk too much about WCW, but the fact that stuff like the NWO was happening, this was WWF's way of, trying to compete with that.
Right. Yep.
Now, I don't know. Would you really say that was like the beginning of the Attitude Era, or just one of those seeds that were planted? Because I feel like the Attitude Era came a little bit later. Well, I feel like because even during that time, after that Pillman skit, we were still with the cartoony gimmicks and stuff for a little bit longer.
We were. So my thought process on it is we had seeds all throughout the year up to that, right? We had Goldust rubbing on Razor Ramon, talking about Hot Rod making him hot and wanting his body. Giving mouth to mouth to Ahmed Johnson and talking about like slipping him the tongue. We had the Kevin Nash middle finger. We had all those little seeds, the Austin 316 promo. And I feel like that was the reason why I say that was the start is because WWF wanted to see how far they could push that envelope, which is essentially for me what the Attitude Era was all about. How far can we go across that line that we're not supposed to go across? Because they got in a lot of trouble for that scene.
Definitely with the USA Network and everything. But do you think that, like, I don't know. For me, I feel like that was something that, like you said, all those things. What was the word that Vince McMahon used to like using with Goldust? Androgynous Goldust character, and that, and the middle finger from Diesel before he left for WCW, and you're showing that, and that's another big thing. Like, I think very early on, mostly in '96, you saw a little bit more. Both Shawn Michaels and Diesel showed a little bit more attitude, a little bit more character that was more reality based than just this goofy, silly character. I would say some of the stuff they did with Mankind was a little edgy. If you listen to his promos really closely, when he was feuding with The Undertaker, without a shadow of a doubt, like that Austin 316 promo was a huge seed planted in the Attitude Era. That was something like, and I think just without anybody's like, without it being like, without anybody knowing, like Stone Cold himself becoming Stone Cold and that King of the Ring was a huge seed planted for the Attitude Era. Because when you think of Attitude Era, like I think a lot of people would say Stone Cold's the face of that era. Whether you have The Rock and Triple H and Degeneration X and that brief part, well, I still think Bret was a part of it. Some people think Bret wasn't a part of it. But
I think he was a huge catalyst for the Attitude Era.
I think a lot of people think Bret's biggest influence on the Attitude Era was the Montreal Screwjob, and that was a lot of the comments I got was, "Oh, the Attitude Era started after the Montreal Screwjob," and when Vince became a villain. I think it started a little bit prior to that. Like now, if we're gonna go in my opinion, I really honestly do think that March 17th, man, the Raw before WrestleMania 13, when Bret snapped and he pushed Vince McMahon. And, he said, this is bullshit. I've been screwed by everybody. And that big brawl happened. I'm like, okay, Bret was the, like, superhero babyface from, like, 1992 all the way to 1997. He could do no wrong. In loss, he was still like a good guy. Like he never got bitter. In victory, like when he was a champ, he was the fighting champion. Like everybody loved Bret, and Bret was like the goody two shoe, didn't do anything wrong. While Shawn Michaels was dry humping the air and gyrating and pretty much doing stripping dances with little children. Bret wasn't about that shit. He was the ultimate good guy that you could look up to, like a role model. No, that wasn't a dig at Shawn Michaels. I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan too. But I think when Bret snapped, for me, and I wouldn't say that was the start of the Attitude Era, but that was like the seed that was like, okay, there's Austin doing the 316 thing. There was a Pillman 9mm thing. I think the Austin Bret feud was pretty much generally for me like what was the biggest Attitude Era launcher. The Hart Foundation versus Stone Cold.
Yeah, well, because for me, what I liked about that is I always thought that it was like Stone Cold versus Canada.
That's like, basically what it felt like.
Which was for me was awesome because, man, I'll tell you, the Canadian crowds, and I don't know why WWE doesn't go to Canada as often as they used to, because dude, those crowds are insane. I mean, even you watch playoff hockey and the crowds are insane. Like, you Canadians, and I mean this in a good way, are out of your freaking minds.
And it's Bizarro Land over here. Like I love how they always call it that when they come here because it's true, and I think it's a general consensus with most of my friends too. And Stone Cold was the exception because he was a cool good guy. We like the bad guys. We like the guys that are like. Yeah, like we like when I remember like during the mid 2000s Ruthless Aggression era, and I know we're not talking about that era, but when they used to come here all the time, like they used to always get really confused, and you know how the WWE makes the commentators cover it up by like saying, look, the crowds here are super bizarre and like we used to cheer Triple H like he was a good guy when he was supposed to be like the biggest bad guy, and everyone's like, what's going on in Canada? Why do they love Triple H so much? It's because for such a good peaceful country, we like the bad guys. We want. It's weird out here. So the Hart Foundations would technically, you can say, oh, we're cheering them because they were Canadian. I think a lot of Canadians started to like Bret Hart even more when he turned into a bad guy because it's like, hell yeah, like straight up, you tell him, dude.
Yeah, no,
you have been screwed.
I am with you.
Michael.
Well, like. So for me, like it's hard to argue against the Bret Hart snapping segment, but I feel that is what, for me at least, anyway, that's what added the fuel to. Like they started a campfire with Brian Pillman, and then they threw gasoline all over that son of a bitch with Bret Hart.
Because it built to that too. Like, they were so smart. Bret came back. You know, he lost to Shawn Michaels. He was a little at WrestleMania 12. He was all like, you know, he did his thing. He left. He came back. Started feuding with Austin. Austin already started building this persona, because, you know, the promo at the King of the Ring, and then he did the stuff with Pillman. He was becoming this badass. And what the Attitude Era to me was, and this is now we're gonna get serious. It was like, it technically was what society was at that point. They were tired of being that goody two-shoe, civil, peaceful society. Like, if you look at that time, you had like grunge music with Nirvana and stuff, and you had hip-hop just kicking it to a whole different level with like Tupac and Biggie and Nas and Jay-Z guys, you know, talking about the street, and the NWA kicking off with, you know, fuck the police and everything. That was the attitude of the mid to late 90s. That's what society was like. They were rebelling with not, you know, they weren't rebelling with like marches and protests and all this civil snowflake shit like today, or the anti-war stuff like back then. They were rebelling with attitude. They were rebelling with just being like, fuck you guys, fuck the system.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was fuck the system. Stone Cold was fuck the system.
Yeah, he was the poster child. Him and Rage Against the Machine, poster childs for that.
Yeah, and that's what Stone Cold was. Stone Cold did not follow the rules. He was going to Pillman's house. He was doing all this stuff. And Bret Hart was the system. Bret Hart was the good guy. Bret Hart was the hero. He towed the company line. He did all this stuff. And it took Stone Cold to break Bret Hart. And that's the way I see it. Like, the Royal Rumble happened in 97 when Bret got eliminated after you already eliminated Stone Cold. Seed planted. You know, you go into In Your House Fatal 4-Way, Bret wins a belt. Then he has to defend it against Psycho Sid the next night. What happens? Boom, Stone Cold hits him with the chair, loses the belt to Sid. Boom, seed planted. Come to WrestleMania 13. And we're rolling into WrestleMania 13. You see Bret getting more pissed and more pissed. And it's Stone Cold, the character. Right? I'm talking about the characters, guys. The character Stone Cold. pushing Bret's buttons, where, you know, he starts, you know, he like, and then it was the week before WrestleMania 13. They're in a steel cage matches. Bret Hart versus Psycho Sid, World Heavyweight title on line. Sid wins, he goes to WrestleMania, and he fights Undertaker for the title. Bret Hart wins, he goes to WrestleMania, and he gets defended against Stone Cold in the submission match for the title. And this was the first time we kind of saw Stone Cold trying to help Bret, and we saw Taker trying to help Sid, because they both wanted their titles. They both wanted their matches to be for the title. Oddly enough, that is like the only time you see two opponents, the opponent they're supposed to fight that following Sunday, working together to try to make something happen. It was weird, and it was different. I was like, and the weirdest thing is that actually made sense, and that's something they don't do a lot these days. We're like, I'm like, why wouldn't this person want that person to win? They tried to make it make sense back then.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, brother.
And then when Bret lost, it was like, and there was another thing that happened before that I also think, and the reason why I'm saying Bret and Austin kicked off the Attitude Era is because there was also that point I remember before, I think Fatal 4 after the Royal Rumble, where Bret was pissed that he got eliminated from Austin after he already eliminated Austin, and he quit, and he started swearing at Vince McMahon. I feel like anytime someone points out Vince McMahon as the owner, that was showing the change in the tide. Shawn Michaels did it a lot, Bret Hart did it, and then Stone Cold slowly started, and he stopped picking on Gorilla Monsoon and he started picking on Vince. But
yeah, well, I mean, even when we talk about that, what my very, very first seed that I ever would say would be Attitude Era, or, you know, seed planting towards that, was Bret Hart and Diesel at Survivor Series 95. Because that match was the first time they used a table spot.
Yeah.
And then the Raw after is when Kevin Nash made that promo. I keep calling Kevin Nash, sorry, Diesel. When he made that promo down in front of the commentators table, calling out Vince McMahon and saying, when am I going to get my rematch? I want my title. When am I going to get my title? And I was like, I mean, I remember sitting there like, when I was a kid, as this is happening, I'm like, why are you asking this man?
Like, why are you asking this announcer? Why are you asking the what a maneuver guy? You know?
The guy who's never called a wrestling hold.
1, 2, oh, you almost had him.
What's this? But I think for me that was the very first seed. And it was because we had never heard that. Nobody ever knew. The only way you would have known if Vince McMahon was the owner of WWF at that time in 1995 was if you watched CNN and you followed the court hearing from 2 years prior about the steroid scandal. Because the internet was still a very, very, very rare thing in 95.
Or if you were a subscriber to Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. But
yeah.
You're like, yeah. No, I wasn't shot at Dave Meltzer again. Once again, I don't hate Dave Meltzer. I just hate the people that dick ride Dave Meltzer. But the thing that was, but yeah, no, and that's the thing too. Like, and that is a huge contribution. Let's just talk about that then, because I do believe Austin and Brett, that rivalry was a huge. Like, that was a huge kickoff. That whole rivalry was a huge kickoff to the Attitude Era. And then slide Shawn Michaels back in there once he found his smile and it really became a big thing. But that nobody can deny that the coming out, and it all happened. Obviously, it wasn't planned. It wasn't what they wanted to happen. The Montreal Screwjob played a huge part in this. But the official coming out of the Vince McMahon character was a huge part of the Attitude Era. Because once the Screwjob happened, Brett was gone. You know, coming around WrestleMania time, Shawn Michaels was gone, and those two guys were huge parts of the Attitude Era because so the whole Brett Snap thing happened, and then Shawn came back, and then Shawn and Brett, no one can deny that their rivalry was huge for that era, and it was real. It was the first thing that felt real.
Yeah, well, like Bruce Pritchard famously says, the two guys worked themselves into a shoot.
Oh, they definitely did, and I don't think there's ever been a rivalry in professional wrestling that felt as genuinely real as that. Because even like Austin and Rock, like, you knew competitive, they probably had some beef with each other in the sense of competition, but they didn't really dislike each other. Like, they didn't work themselves into a shoot. Right. Macho Man and Hogan, they might have worked themselves in a shoot a bunch of times, but they always end up being friends again and off again and then friends again. And now they're together in the NWO. Now they don't like each other again.
Right.
Brett and Shawn at that period of time, it went from being a competitive thing to really being like, these two guys don't like each other. And then the Montreal Screwjob was just like the cherry on top.
Yeah.
And kept it real that kept it real until 2010. Like, they really just did not like each other for about nearly a decade.
Yeah. I still don't know if they actually like each other or not. It still seems whenever you see them in the same place together, it still seems a little awkward.
Well, like, they're old now.
Right.
When you're old, you got to bury hatches and be like, you know what?
I ain't got time for this shit.
You're gonna hold that shit over your head forever. Like, they probably have this little bit of like, yeah, Brett's Brett and Shawn's Shawn. I don't know, but it's not like they're gonna be like. There was a point where, like, was it the 2005 Hall of Fame when Brett got inducted, and like Shawn wasn't even there because he didn't want to be there. That was like one of the things.
Well, yeah. So I heard that. I mean, and this is this is rumor and innuendo. I heard that Brett would accept the Hall of Fame induction as long as Shawn was not in the crowd. Yeah, whether that's true or not, I mean,
like, that really was a thing. I don't think they really liked each other. And a lot of Shawn's best promos in his second run involved mocking Brett. And what happened? Like, that Who's Your Daddy Montreal promo when he was feuding with Hogan and pretend Brett wasn't come out.
Yep.
That was like one of my favorite things ever. When he was in his brief feud with Vince McMahon, and it started with him trying to be like, get over the Brett thing.
Yep.
It worked because no matter what happened in Shawn's career in that second run, people would always still tie him back to like, oh, he screwed Brett.
Yeah.
it just is what it is. Until 2010 was it, everyone was kind of like, oh, I guess we can't say that no more because they shook hands in the middle of the ring. So whatever. But
so let me ask you this: do you think that there is enough to talk about regarding just the Montreal Screwjob to do an entire episode? Because if not, then I have a couple questions that I want to ask you.
I think so. I think it's like but I do think it's one of the most talked about things that at some point it gets repetitive. But our take of it would be different because we'll talk about all the conspiracies and bullshit too, right?
Yeah.
So everyone else trying to tell the true story. We can just when I was a kid, it was fucked. We can talk about it in that sense.
Yeah.
I'm a Canadian fan of Bret Hart.
Right. So WWE I get their official start date that they say is December 15th of 97 when Vince McMahon dropped that Attitude Era promo, which you can find on our Instagram page at SCDNA Show. I still think it started before that, man.
I do too, and even this, like, if that they're saying December, I think we're just jumping all over the place. But I'll take other people's opinions on when they thought it started too. One guy told me point blank, he's like, "You don't even need to do a podcast on the Attitude Era. We all know when it started."
I saw that.
Like, you're just wasting your time, dude. Like, we all know it started when Austin stunned Vince McMahon. Okay, that's your opinion. I think it started a little bit before that, but that is a really good argument to make if he wasn't so, like, stuck in his opinion. But I think that is a good opinion. Like, maybe it was. That October episode was huge in Madison Square Garden when Austin stunned McMahon.
Yeah, well, and like I said, man, the thing that was cool about this whole topic is it's not just let's talk about the Attitude Era, because I'm sure we'll have plenty. We're doing the Monday Night Wars, breaking year by year. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But this is just, there's no wrong answer because it's all your opinion. That's the best part.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, that my opinion was, the Bret snaps and then the whole Austin Bret Hart feud, but that also might be a little bit biased because that is one of my favorite feuds of all time. I think it brought the best out of Austin and it brought the best out of Bret Hart. I don't think Austin would have been as big as Stone Cold what became without that rivalry with Bret, and I don't think Bret's legacy in the WWF at the time, I guess, in the WWF would have been as big as it is without that heel turn and that Canada vs. US feud. Like, it just made Bret have more depth into his character because he was that ultimate good guy for so long, but you got to see this different side of him that we didn't think we were going to see, and it was super, like, super important to both their careers. And I still stand to this very day, if someone was to ask me, hey, what's your favorite match of all time, I would say Bret and Stone Cold at WrestleMania 13. I can watch at any point and still be entertained the first time. I'll be entertained, yeah. Yep. There's so many good matches. Like, I love Warrior and Savage. I love all the Shawns and Takers and and everyone's like, oh, well, what match would you show someone that's never watched wrestling before? I'd be like, if I think they would appreciate wrestling the way I do, it would be that match.
Yeah.
If I think I just want them to watch it and be entertained, maybe I'll show Mick Foley getting thrown off a cell or TLC to something. But, like, just I'll be like, look, it could be fun. But at the same time, like, Bret and Austin for me is just my favorite match because it was a little bit technical, it was a little bit hardcore. And the story for it was so great. So for me, that was a huge part of the Attitude. That double turn at WrestleMania 13 that followed Bret snapping was done and executed so perfectly that I felt like that kicked off a whole new thing, because from that point on all the way till 2001, Stone Cold was the ultimate good guy holding the flag for the WWF, I think.
Yeah, it was. And what I thought was really cool about that era, where it before the Attitude Era started, possibly when it started, so on, is Bret Hart was such a hot heel. He was in 2 feuds at the same time. Like, think about that.
Honestly, sometimes I feel like he was in 3 because you knew he always had to look out for Stone Cold. He always had to look out for Shawn Michaels. Then sometimes he'd be feuding with The Undertaker, or he'd be feuding with The Patriot, or he'd be, but at the same time, you knew, like, Austin's always, fucking with the Hart Foundation, whether he's busy with Bulldog or Owen.
Yeah.
Bret's the guy he hates. Shawn Michaels and Bret always had this underlying, tension, whether it was competitive or whether it was real. Like, they just, Shawn Michaels and Bret, they're always at each other's edges. And then Bret had to, like, go feud with The Undertaker, go feud with The Patriot, go feud with Vader for a couple of weeks.
Feud with Psycho, feud, and that speaks volumes for Bret Hart, realistically, because, like I said, this guy was in 2 main event feuds that were sometimes on the back burner.
Yeah.
Like, that's to me that's just insane. Like, I strongly feel that if Austin and Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13 was for the title, it would not have meant as much as it did.
110% agree, because I don't think Austin was suited for a title match, or WWF title match. at WrestleMania to that extent yet. Like if Austin was going to get that big title match, which I'm pretty sure he did fight Undertaker for the title at In Your House, Cold Day in Hell, when he was still feuding with Brett, the Hart Foundation and stuff. Like he had title shots, but like if it was going to be at WrestleMania, it had to be the one where the torch was passed, and that's what happened at WrestleMania 14.
Yeah,
that match, Austin could lose and still look strong, and it was only because it wasn't for the title, and both those guys got to steal the show in their own way.
Yeah, I mean, and that's still, like I said, for me. See, this is where we agree, and without a question, is that to me is still that's the greatest match of all time that I have ever seen to this day still.
And I know a lot of kids won't like they're gonna come out and be like CM Punk vs John Cena, Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker, WrestleMania 25, which I agree they're all great matches, but I think you listen like I was a kid, man. I was alive for that shit. I had that shit on VHS. I watched it all the time. I have it on like 4 different DVD sets I have, like the Austin one, the Bret Hart one, the WrestleMania ones. Like, it's hands down one of my favorite. And now it's on the network for me to watch forever. But one of my favorite matches. I mean, it is my favorite match of all time. I was blessed that Chalkline sent me a jacket. Really cool moment I had this last month at WrestleMania when I got Bret to sign that jacket, and it's Austin and Bret in the back. And Bret himself, like I didn't even ask him. Maybe it's because we're kind of cool with each other now, which is still so weird for me to say because it's Bret the fucking Hitman Hart. But like, he knows my name, he knows my face. Like I didn't even have to introduce myself properly, and it was so weird because when I met him when I was a kid, I cried. But now I was like, now we're talking like we were buddies because like I'm friends with his kids and stuff now. But like and then without me even asking, he obviously signed the jacket. And then him by himself, he just continued. I remember the lady was like, "Oh, you're not done yet?" He's like, "No." And he's like, "Best match ever," and he wrote it on the jacket.
That's awesome.
The only thing I regret, because I was kind of like, wasn't sure how the rest of my weekend was gonna go, is that I regret that I didn't go to WrestleCon the Sunday to meet Stone Cold to get him to sign the other half of the jacket, because that would have just made it complete. But I mean, there's
still a chance. You still got it.
Oh, what's going to happen? Stone Cold's going to sign the other half of that jacket. And what the craziest thing about that story is, about that WrestleMania 13 jacket, is I only wore it because I don't even know why. I'm just going to wear this jacket today because I took like 4 Chalkline jackets with me. And I just happened to wear that one. And I didn't even know Bret was there that day. Like, that was the morning I was actually supposed to attempt to go to WWE's International Media Day with Sheamus. But he said he got some pushback, so we never got to go. And then I changed it on my dress clothes into like normal clothes again. I'm like, I'll just go meet up with my boys at WrestleCon. And I wasn't even planning to go to WrestleCon. This was not even a plan. And I go into WrestleCon and I look around. I'm like, wow, this is like way better than Access and stuff, because they're just so much more accessible, and you don't have to stand in long lines, and they're not just there for a brief period of time. You can spend a little bit longer time with them and stuff. And then I'm like, and then someone's like, oh, Ric Flair's, and I'm like, well, fuck, I gotta go meet Ric Flair. Like the guy almost passed away last year. Like I can't miss out on that opportunity,
Yeah, for sure.
And I've done some cool giveaways and stuff with him, so I'm like, that had to happen. But then someone who me Bret was there, so I went and stood in Bret's. First, I walked by Bret, saw my shirt. He's like, oh, what the hell, and whatever. And then I stood in line because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And then he kept leaving to go get water. I don't know what he was doing. And then someone behind me is like, oh, are you gonna get that jacket signed? And I'm like, didn't even click in my head.
Yes, I am.
I'm like, you know what? Yes, I am. Thank you for pointing that out, because it didn't like. Someone's like, why are you wearing that jacket? It's so hot in here. No, it's really hot in there. I was like sweating and shit. and I'm like, oh, well, I just wore it. I didn't expect to be here for that long. I literally just came there to meet up with my buddies and meet up with Danielle Monette, aka Summer Rae, because we were supposed to do some stuff. And then I was like, I'm gonna go see how long Bret's gonna take. So I went to go walk up to his desk to ask the people that were handling his appearance, be like, hey, how long is it taking? He walked by. And I'm like, hey, dude. I'm like, you keep kicking it. I was waiting in line. I'm like, he's like, don't worry about it, man. You don't have to stand in line. Just come in. So I got to skip the whole line. Didn't pay a thing. Hung out with him for like 5 minutes. Signed my jacket. Had a quick conversation. I left. I'm like, yo, that's so cool. Like, that's how far I've come in my life, that Bret Hart knows who I am. After crying when I went to meet him at I think it was like a Dunkin' Donuts when I was a kid or something. But random story. But anyways, back to the Attitude Era.
Boom. This is a good story, though.
We talked about Bret. We talked about Shawn. I mean, we talked about Austin. I think the person that we've mentioned a bunch of times, huge part of the Attitude Era, huge part of a lot of the things we talked about, a huge part of Bret Hart's career, a huge part of Stone Cold's career. It's Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
I think we're not giving Shawn Michaels enough credit for, because we're not talking about the Attitude Era per se. We're not talking about the Ministry and Godfather and Val Venis and everything that happened in the Attitude Era. We're talking about what started the Attitude Era.
Right.
And there was something about Shawn, and I say this all the time, and I'm gonna say it the way I like to say it because it's kind of mean and it kind of sounds stupid and ignorant, but it's honestly how I feel. And obviously, I'm happy that he found God and he is where he is. But Shawn Michaels on drugs was the best Shawn Michaels. Like,
you're not wrong, bud.
it's like Eminem on drugs was the best Eminem. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, man. And 1997 Shawn Michaels was, and partially 1998 was my favorite Shawn Michaels. That bad guy douchebag Shawn Michaels, after he found his smile, was the best. I don't know why, because when he was a babyface in '96. And before he lost his smile, there was always a part of me, and I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan. He's like my top 5 favorite. Right after Bret comes Shawn Michaels, but there was a part of me, I'm like, man, when he was a good guy, I'm like, he's so cheesy and he's so, he's bad guy written all over him, but he's like dancing and he's a champion, and I just like, he was a great wrestler, but I just didn't buy it. Right. So when he started acting like a jerk in 1997 and showing attitude, and I think he was the first guy. Because before Austin went out of control drinking beer and stuff, Shawn Michaels was telling people to suck it, coming out there in like booty shorts and just doing things that was so anti. There's one promo I think I remember where someone called him a homo, and I know this is so not PC of today's
right.
Like, I don't use that word, guys. I'm using it in context because this is exactly what happened. Someone in the crowd heckled him and called him a homo. Yeah. And he's like, why don't you go ask your mom or your sister how big of a homo I am? Yeah. And I'm like, that's attitude. That was Shawn Michaels. I don't give a fuck. I'll tell you exactly what's up. And 1997, 1998, Shawn Michaels for me was one of my favorites. Even though Shawn Michaels was
super entertaining. What I liked about Shawn Michaels, and I'm the biggest Shawn Michaels mark you'll ever meet. I'll preface by saying that, but there were times where I would grow tired of him in '96. Where you're like, all right, come on, like, stop trying to be this white meat baby face. You know what I mean? Stop trying to hold hands and kiss babies and all this stuff. Like, stop kissing the ugly chicks in the crowd. No offense if you're one of those that were on Rock and got a kiss. But it's like, I did like moments like when he had that interview in the ring after he beat Owen Hart in 1996 in your house.
Yeah.
And he's like, with all due respect, I don't respect anybody more than I respect the Hitman. And you're like, dude, stop kissing his, like, stop that. Like, you guys are getting ready. And I get what they were trying to do. They wanted to build it like babyface versus babyface and have the crowd 50-50 split. They don't want to have boos, but they wanted to have cheers the entire thing. I totally get that. But for me, when Shawn started showing attitude was after he won the title from Bret, when he started the feud with Diesel.
Yeah.
Because some of those promos, and you're listening to them and you're like man, like it seemed like, to me, it seemed like there was a legitimate beef between Shawn and Kevin at that time because Shawn felt betrayed that Kevin Nash was going to WCW. So I felt that there was a sense of realism in those promos.
And like I said, like Shawn, and we mentioned that earlier on, like, I felt a lot of that from Shawn and Kevin in 1996. And like, obviously 1996 was a huge year of going into, I think 97 is the best year just generally for like WCW, ECW, and WWF. I think just wrestling overall in 97 was in such a big turning point that everything was starting to become cool. And then 1998 and 99 just was amazing. But even in '96 with all the Goldust and all that stuff happening, like Shawn Michaels' feud with British Bulldog when he won the belt was still a little bit edgy too, like the whole, the Diana. Yeah. I'm like, and that was something that was different for the time, not just in society, because let's be honest, and I remember being a little kid and my mom used to watch, Days of Our Lives and soap operas and all that stuff was huge at that period of time, The Young and the Restless and Victor and all that stuff. But And Stefano Demiro, I still remember that guy. But
I'm going to have to edit that part out for us. Save face for you.
but all that was happening, and not even just like soap operas, like Beverly Hills 90210 was super cool, like teenage dramas like Melrose Place and stuff. It was just that type of affairs and that type of drama was huge at that period of time. Like, and on TV a lot, they were actually attacking real life events. And I think that's what they kind of started doing with the Shawn Michaels Davey Boy feud in 1996. And then you kind of saw Shawn Michaels get a little bit edgier throughout 96, but I think after Davey Boy kind of calmed down a bit, and he was still doing stuff that wasn't typical. Like he was randomly kissing Sunny and stuff, or he was having great wrestling matches. I still there was a random match in Raw with Yokozuna and Shawn Michaels that I'll always appreciate. And he did the stuff with Vader and everything, but it wasn't until 97 until he lost his smile, I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh no, with Sid, they tried to bring reality into it when
Jose.
Say it was Shawn Michaels' trainer, and then, Sid took out Jose, and then Shawn Michaels lost the belt, and he came back, but then Shawn lost his smile. And there's this, when he came back, he was still a baby face, but you could tell the fans were turning on that white meat baby face in Shawn too.
Right.
Which is kind of weird to me because, like you mentioned, what they were trying to go with Brett and Shawn was to do this big babyface rematch. And it's so ironic by the time we got to November 1997 because originally I think the plan was Brett versus Shawn at WrestleMania 13. That's what they wanted to do.
That's what, I think Bruce has even said that was in the script.
Yeah. That's what I've heard on Bruce Pritchard's podcast. So I read in Brett's book. Like it was supposed to be Shawn versus Brett, and the main goal was for Shawn to drop the title back to Brett, something he really didn't want to do. So a lot of people claim that he lost his smile to avoid having to do something like that. How serious was his knee injury? We don't fucking know. But anyways, because of that, we got the whole Austin Brett thing, which is amazing. I'm glad that worked out that way.
Blessing in disguise.
We did get Taker and Sid, which is kind of forgettable, but whatever. Taker won the belt. I'm a huge Taker fan, so that's cool. But then they were supposed to have it at the King of the Ring, and it was supposed to be Brett versus Shawn again. And I think at that time it was still supposed to be, now it's heel Brett versus somewhat babyface Shawn. He was still a babyface. He was
just an edgy babyface. He was like Sting.
At that point.
You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
You know when Sting was like when he started painting his face white and you were like, not really sure what's going on with this guy. Like, are you good? Are you bad? Like, and that's how I felt Shawn Michaels was. So
then Shawn, at that point, him and Stone Cold beat Davey Boy and Owen for the tag bouts, and at King of the Ring, Brett was supposed to be better and he was supposed to fight Shawn. And another match that was supposed to happen was supposed to be Brian Pillman versus Stone Cold. Everything fell apart because Brett was still hurt and wasn't clear to wrestle yet. So it ended up being Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels, and they were the tag champs. And it's one of the forgotten matches. Everyone kind of automatically jumps to, WrestleMania 14. But if you guys haven't watched Shawn Michaels versus Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold at the King of the Ring, 1997,
do it.
Really fun match, man. Really fun match. And they were both showing signs of attitude in that match. They were both showing this edginess. It was a really good match, and I think that those, like I say, Brett, Shawn, Austin, all three big factors to the Attitude Era kicking off, and you could see it there. Shawn didn't fully turn heel until after SummerSlam 97, I want to say, after he hit Undertaker with the chair, causing Brett to win the belt back. But I feel like he was slowly getting that way and getting more frustrated with what was going on heading into SummerSlam. Obviously, a huge part of the SummerSlam buildup was Vince announcing Shawn as the special referee, and then Bret Hart coming out and getting in that hockey fight with Vince McMahon.
Right.
I think that was a huge moment too.
I think that I guess we started seeing signs of DX in August, right before SummerSlam. But yeah, I think I would say that Shawn's full-fledged heel turn was probably when he hit Taker with that chair at SummerSlam.
Because Taker was the ultimate babyface at that point.
Right.
And then Shawn became and then that's true because we saw Shawn being forced to team with Triple H to face, I think it was Taker and Mankind or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Initially. And then their behind-the-scenes click friendship became an on-screen friendship. And another huge factor of the Attitude Era, who didn't really play a bigger role until this took place, but was there and was different and was unique and nothing like we've seen before, and was fighting with the men, was China.
Yeah, China was huge.
Dude, and when she was, like, I don't think people get the impact of China unless you were alive. Everyone's like, oh yeah, China, great women's wrestler. Dude, she was getting in there with the men. Like, the men weren't, like, I remember times where, like, she'd stand off against Stone Cold and stuff. Like, that's how big China was.
Yeah, it was. What was cool is they built China to be so big and forceful and impactful that when she stood nose to nose with Stone Cold Steve Austin, that didn't make Stone Cold look weak. Like, yeah, and it was crazy. The craziest.
And the crazy part, like, she technically was there, because you got to remember at the time that Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley still had that cheesy blue blood gimmick, so China technically was like his bodyguard.
Right, she was his Diesel.
And there was a point, like, I remember, I think, like, in, like, early 97, look at WrestleMania 13 when China kind of made her debut, choking out Marlena and stuff, when Triple H is feuding with Goldust. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a point where, like, I was like, oh my god, like, China looked bigger than Triple H. Like, she looked more jacked than Triple H. Like,
it's true.
I'm like, it makes sense that she's his bodyguard. Like, that's 110. Like, I get it. I understand. So China. So when DX got together and it was Triple H, China, and Shawn Michaels, and eventually Rick Rude, like, and they had the whole feud with the Undertaker, and Shawn turned fully heel. I think DX, the attitude of DX, the whole suck it, the being derogatory, the whole like college jock like humor, like that. I don't know how you would categorize them. They were degenerates. They were like those kids, those
the
rich
offbeat shenanigans, as your fellow Canadian Lance Storm would say.
Yeah, those rich spoiled kids had no reason to rebel, but they did anyways, and they liked all the dirty jokes and messing with people, and just they had it all, but they wanted to be degenerates, and that was also a sign of what society was like back then. Somewhat kind of what a sign of society is like right now. If you look at all these like Vine stars and these YouTube stars and these Logan Pauls and stuff, that was and everyone's like, ew, you just like compare DX to these losers, but at the same time, it's like that's pretty much what it was.
It's a similar concept, yeah.
Yeah, So I think DX is a huge part, and obviously, I think that late part of '97, like all those things that happened, kicked off that to like Brian Pillman's feud with Goldust with Marlena.
Yeah. I get to keep Marlena, and I mean, hell, Goldust dumping Marlena.
Goldust and all those cool promos they did, they bring reality in with Goldust and Mick Foley telling us about their life stories and stuff, breaking that character,
Yeah, a lot of that stuff, the Mankind and Jim Ross stuff does go unnoticed a lot, man.
It does.
I mean, it seemed like everybody in '97 was on their A game. It really does. Like, it seems like everything was firing on all cylinders, because you can't talk. There's not, off the top of my head, there's not a single big feud that was bad. Because like nowadays we can talk about and be like the Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar feud, and 90% of people are going to say that's bad. That's fine. We'll talk all about that next week, folks. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Mankind and Triple H's feud was great. Mankind and Undertaker was good. Austin and Shawn's little mini feud they had in '97 was good.
So much was happening. Like, I can't even, like, I'm sitting here trying to think about, like, when did the Attitude Era start? I'm thinking, you know what? I've been sitting here talking about Brad and Austin for so long, and Shawn and Brad and DX and stuff. Like the impact of the Undertaker and Paul Bearer splitting up, and Kane and Mankind and all that was like, it was bringing this realism to it too. Like the whole Kane Undertaker feud kicked off in the end of '97, going into '98. Like, how big was that?
Right.
Like Kane was like Undertaker becoming less zombie-ish, less just like this Grim Reaper to like this real person. Oh, he has a brother. He had a family. Or what? He burned down his house. Like, this is like the reality-based stories coming out. What kind of made it more real? Those real-life soap opera stories coming to screen. Like, bro. I don't know. Maybe it was Vince Russo, bro.
Right? Swerve, bro.
Swerve, bro.
It's like I said. I honestly, I have for my personal my personal thoughts and preference. I have absolutely no problem giving Brian Pillman the nod, saying that he started the Attitude Era. Personally, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for how good he was because he wasn't there long enough for a lot of people that weren't watching ECW and didn't really follow the kind of cheesy gimmick he had in WCW. You know what I mean? I feel like I have absolutely no problem giving him that crown and saying the Attitude Era started with Brian Pillman.
Pillman was definitely ahead of his time. He was. I remember his press conference. I remember him coming out, and I posted it actually not too long ago when he came out with the King of the Ring of '96, and he cut that promo about coming here and he was gonna rape and pillage the whole, the whole locker room and like so ahead of his time. So like, I like the beauty of the Attitude Era. Whether give credit to Vince, give credit to both Vinces, Vince McMahon, Vince Russo, give credit to Pat Patterson and Bruce Pritchard and Jim Cornette, all the guys behind the scenes involved, all the characters on screen that were involved with it, Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler on commentary, just always selling everything to a different extent. But the biggest thing about the Attitude Era was that the unpredictability of it. So all these things we've talked about, whether it was Pillman 9mm skit with Stone Cold, whether it was Pillman's promos, whether it was Stone Cold cutting the promo with the King of the Ring, whether it was the middle finger from Diesel, whether it was Goldust trying to make out with Ahmed Johnson, whether it was the Sunny promos where you post a whole bunch of them on the Squared Circle DNA Instagram page, SCDNA show on Instagram. You posted a bunch of them, and those were different. Bringing sexuality out on TV on WWF programming wasn't that big of a thing before. The closest thing we ever had to it was,
Alundra Blaze,
like Rick Rude and stuff, and but like. All these things, the reason why they were also impactful, like, this is something that might have been a seed plant for the Attitude Era. Brett snapping, that was a big deal. Or like Austin starting to McMahon or Shawn Michaels, starting to get edgier and, the whole suck in, all this stuff. The reason that we claimed that all to be the Attitude Era and why we don't have it so much today like that. And I feel like the problem with today, I'm like, like the Attitude Era wasn't the Attitude Era because of half-naked women, middle fingers, and suck-it crotch shops. That's not what the Attitude Era was. Everyone's like, you can never have the Attitude Era again because it's too PG. You can still have that same type of fucking momentum in today's atmosphere and today's programming because of one thing and one thing only. And it has to do with the characters, it has to do with the storytelling, it has to do with it kind of feeling more reality-based. But the thing is unpredictability. Those things were all unpredictable. All these moments that people commented on my page, the Attitude Era started when this happened. The Attitude Era started when, Austin beat Shawn Michaels because Tyson turned on DX. All those things, like, and don't get me wrong, everything's predictable to an extent. Everyone's going to have that, what if this happens? But the Attitude Era generally just was unpredictable. We didn't see these things happening. It was kind of like, oh my God moments. And it wasn't the middle fingers and the crotch chops and the titties and the ass and the TNA and all that. It was just the fact that it was unpredictable. All these things we talked about were unpredictable, and that's what made the Attitude Era so great. Pillman was unpredictable. You never knew what he was going to say. When Austin grabbed the mic, you didn't know what was going to happen. When Brett turned into a bad guy, we haven't witnessed that since he was in the Hart Foundation with Jim Neidhart, like in the late 80s.
And he didn't talk then. So you didn't know what he was going to say or do.
When Shawn Michaels came back from losing his smile and slowly the fans started turning on him too, and then he just turned into a dick. Like, there was so much unpredictability. Kane and The Undertaker, who is Kane? Like, what's going on here? Yeah. That was the Attitude Era. Yeah. I think that's what everyone forgets. Everyone tries to say, it was because it was reality based. I think they still try to be reality based. They still try to bring reality into their storylines. It's the characters and the storylines. I think a lot of the storylines and the Attitude are a little bit too over the top. I think they're a little bit too much sometimes. Some of them more. I kind of like that they don't go that over the top anymore, because today's society, they would quickly
be able to handle it.
Down. Yeah, they would shut it down. They'd be like, that makes no sense. This is so illogical. Why are you watching this? That's so silly. It worked back then. It wouldn't work now. I think they could be better at developing their characters. That's one thing I do agree with. But I think it needs to be more unpredictable. And I know that's kind of hard for this generation because of the internet being so accessible and social media and dirt sheets being so accessible and everyone knowing everything, it's kind of hard to be as unpredictable, but that's all it takes to make a good product. And that's what made the Attitude Era so great. When things started getting unpredictable in 96, 97, that was the Attitude Era for me.
Yeah, it was. So is there one specific pinpoint that you can say?
I still think it's when Brett snapped. I think from that moment on, 97 moving forward, it was off to the races. Because after WrestleMania 13, after Brett snapped and turned the bad guy and Austin became the good guy, like that was an end of an era and the beginning of a new one.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, I feel that when Brett snapped, that's what turned Raw into must-see. Mm-hmm. Like, you had to watch. Like, you didn't just watch because you were a fan, right? Like, even in 96, like, I watched because I was a fan, and my favorite wrestler was the champion, so I knew that the shows were going to revolve around him. But it wasn't must-see. Like, in 96, I was 10. I turned 10 in June in 96. So, like, I was still at the mercy of doing whatever the hell my parents wanted me to do. So, like, if it was a Monday night, like, hey, we're going to grandma's house, guess what? I'm missing Raw. And there was no such thing as a DVR at that time. I missed Raw. Period. That was it. But it wasn't the end of the world.
You could miss every other week. Like, you know.
Yeah, because
like,
it didn't tie together, really.
Yeah, if one week the main event was, like, I don't know, Savio Vega versus Stone Cold before he really took off, like, it wasn't the end of the world, you know. So, and I don't know. I think must see television. Like, you're not so wrong by saying that Pillman 9mm segment was like their first. I don't think it's fully wrong because that was the first time I feel like it was must see TV. Like, you couldn't miss that. And if you missed that, that was the water cooler talk the next year. For us, because we were a lot younger, that was what we were talking about on the playground.
That's right. Like, playground chats.
Yeah. You know, next to the
I actually
jungle gym chat.
Right. Dude, I'm not even kidding. I still remember having a conversation. So my best friend and I, we watched wrestling all the time. His parents had one of those black boxes. Sorry, WWE officials, if you're actually going to listen, but he had one of those illegal black boxes that unscrambled pay-per-view channels. Yes, all the channels.
Yeah, but, I remember those. My aunt had one of those.
But I still remember sitting. So we all used to get to elementary school early, right? And I still remember sitting on the sidewalk in front of our classroom before they would open the doors, like before the teacher would arrive and stuff, and 6 of us all talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Is he dead? Like, I think so. I think they killed because, dude, we're 9 years old, or I'm 10 at that time, and we're like, did Brian Pillman shot Stone Cold? Oh my! Like, I can't believe they showed that on TV. Like, we thought that was real.
Oh, everything felt real, dude.
And yeah.
I remember when Brett did snap. I remember going around school and I was thinking like, yeah, fine, like he's so cool, like that's the truth. And I'd joke around and be like, I've been screwed by this person. I've been screwed. I didn't even know what that meant when I was a kid, dude.
Right.
I'd be walking around, be like, I've been screwed by this person. And you know what I would compare that to, and then everyone's like, whoa. I actually know what I think this is a legitimate comparison because people actually like both of them. It's only a bad comparison when you try to compare someone to a person that a lot of society does not like. Like if I try to compare Stone Cold to John Cena, then people are like, what the fuck? Or if I try to compare The Rock to Roman Reigns. But I'm comparing two positives here. And once again, like everyone will be able to relate to what I'm about to compare it to because it was more recent. And they're like, you know what? That was such a big moment. That's so true. They were both somewhat scripted, you know. Obviously, like go out there, air your grievances type of thing. I would compare Bret Hart snapping to CM Punk's pipe bomb. It gave you I guarantee you for a fact that when I was a little kid and Bret Hart snapped, he's like, I've been screwed by this person. He showed like that tough shit. This is bullshit. Like I was running around school saying shit like that, being pissed about nothing. I guarantee you those kids that had the pipe bomb, that just anytime they got in trouble in school just wanted to drop a pipe bomb on the whole class.
Right.
Because of CM Punk. You know what I mean?
No,
and
I
think that's a fair comparison. Like, because we love wrestling so much and we have that squared circle DNA and we're so passionate about it that I saw Bret snap and I'm like, yeah, good guys can get mad too and they can finally admit when you get screwed because we do, you know?
Right.
When Punk dropped that pipe bomb, everyone was probably like, yeah. If you're pissed off about something, just sit down, cross your legs, and start telling everybody off.
Like I still remember when that pipe bomb happened, and we'll go into more detail. I think that's episode number 12 we got. Well, we do the episode is on CM Punk specifically, but I still remember I thought I wanted to think that was real because it was so well done and unexpected.
We'll talk about that more because that's like and just like Brett snapping, I hold CM Punk's pipe bomb very special to me because of its significance to me as a fan of not just wrestling, because I loved wrestling the entire time. I never really stopped watching, but it holds significant to me as a fan of the WWE, because there was a brief period of time there, which was years. I watched every Monday. I was still a wrestling fan. I watched TNA a lot more during those years because WWE wasn't my favorite thing at the time.
It was at a lull. Yeah,
and it was pro Super Cena era. It was all just Cena wins, and I was one of those guys. I did not like that. I wasn't a huge Cena fan. I respect the living shit out of the dude, but I'm just never a huge Cena fan.
Right.
And we'll go into detail on because when we talk about CM Punk, we're going to talk all about CM Punk. But the significance about that was from like 2007 to 2011, I just watched on Mondays. I barely watched SmackDown. I watched some of the SmackDowns from those years on the network now. And I'm like, I kind of like it because it's new to me. I'm like, I actually don't remember a lot of this stuff. I can't sit here and be like, I love the Jeff Hardy CM Punk feud so much because I didn't really see all of it. Because it was on Fridays and I'd be out on Friday. I was in high school. Like my Fridays, I was busy. Mondays, I was sitting at home not trying to do homework. So,
ain't that the truth?
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta get my homework done by Friday. But
homework.
But I was in high school. But the CM Punk pipe bomb to me was really significant, just like the Bret Hart snap and kicking off the Attitude Era. And I know we're totally off topic from the Attitude Era, but I'm pretty sure we're done talking about it. But was that it felt so real. It felt like, the feud we had before that was between R-Truth and John Cena. And I believe the weapon of choice, and I've told this story a million times, and I'll tell it again when we do episode 12, was that R-Truth's weapon of choice was like a water bottle, and he was hitting Cena in the head with a water bottle, and Cena was like getting knocked out from him. I'm like, man, this is so bad.
Right.
And then Punk got the number one contendership, and he came out there in a Stone Cold shirt. Shows you how big the Attitude Era is, For some reason, him wearing a Stone Cold shirt and cutting a promo like that took us back in time. We're like, oh, this is his Austin 316 promo. This is his Bret Hart snaps. And everything he said, I honestly do think that's how he really felt. And it just, dude, that shit was on like World Star. That shit was on
everywhere. Yeah, it was.
Friends that hadn't watched wrestling in years be like, yo, who's the CM Punk shit? And like, yo, he said that he can't wait till Vince McMahon is dead. Like, what?
Right? And he calls a doofus son-in-law? Like, oh my God.
You think this place would be better when Vince McMahon dies, but it's just going to be taken over by his doofus son-in-law and his idiotic daughter. Yep. And I'm like, oh my God. And he meant that. And if you look all the way forward to him walking out, I think he still, till this day, I'm like, oh, he really meant that. Everything he said that night, he meant. And he played along with it as long as he did, and he just was like, fuck it, I'm done.
Yep.
We'll talk all about that in episode 12, but that, to me, was the Bret Hart snaps moment for this generation. The
Bret Hart snapping moment, it's hard to argue with. Like I said, it's one of those things where and now, like I said, that's what the coolest thing about this episode was going to be, is that there was no wrong answer to it. There were a lot of similar answers and similar responses that we got from the people. It started the night after WrestleMania 14. It started at the screw job. It started when Bret Hart snapped.
Square Garden, the stunner on McMahon.
Yep.
There's no right answer.
There's no right answer. And just because WWE says that it started on December 15th, that doesn't mean that that's right either. That just means that that's when they want us to acknowledge. That's when they want us to acknowledge that it started. Or anything,
that's when they acknowledge that things were changed. That's when they were finally like, you know what? We need to let our viewers know that. And I still remember the promo, and I know you posted it on the page, but I still remember the whole, like, there isn't good guys, there isn't bad guys, it's shades of gray, blah, 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 that's passe. And, like, Vince gave this whole promo about how things are going to change because, people aren't buying that. And that was because that's what society was at that time.
Yeah.
And they're really...
Can I talk about Brian Pillman's gun? I hear sirens.
Yeah, I don't know. They probably still it fits with the episode. It's all good, but like that promo and everything involved. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Austin, and then once again, everyone's like, "Why aren't you talking about The Rock? Why aren't you talking about, Val Venus and The Godfather?" Because that would be like an episode about the Attitude Era. We're talking about the beginning of the Attitude Era, the planting the seeds.
Yeah,
that's why we're talking about Bret Hart. That's why we're talking about Shawn Michaels, Pillman, Austin.
Yeah, well, we can even talk if you want to talk about The Rock real quick. That promo he cut when he turned heel and joined the Nation of Domination, which is that's on our Instagram page as well. Where, he's like, he calls the crowd pieces of crap. Like, you never had that direct hatred. Like, you would always have like "shut up," or Jerry Lawler would say like "these morons" or "these idiots" and stuff. But it was Jerry Lawler.
You humanoids.
Right, yeah, the humanoids. Well, Bobby Heenan, rest in peace, buddy. But it was like, you know what I mean? It was for me, like, that was a good promo. That's when they said, you know what? Hey, kid, the training wheels are off, and you're off, and you're going.
We barely touched base on, like, I think Goldust made a huge impact when it comes to like bringing reality and bringing edginess to the program. We didn't talk about him enough. I think we totally didn't do enough credit for like the Sunnies and the Sables of the wrestling world, because those women, for kicking off the Attitude Era, like, they were part of the reason I was barely allowed to watch half the time, and I had to like secretly watch in a different room so my parents didn't catch me, because I never knew what type of, like, the Slammies in '96. Was that the one where they did the bikini contest with Sunny and Sable?
I mean, that was very edgy.
Like, excuse me, this used to be a PG program. What's going on here with these half-naked women?
I remember 9-year-old me being like, "What's happening down here?" Now, here's
the creep always rises to the top.
Yeah, no.
I just took that out of context fully, guys.
I love it. Now, did you know the very first ever episode of Raw is War was on March the 10th? Is that
a lot of people actually brought that up too? They're like, I feel like the Attitude Era started when they changed the setup to the giant Titantron and the whole ring setup, because that gave it a whole different look, I feel like, and I totally agree with that, because it used to be that giant RAW entranceway, which was very 96 cartoony entranceway, but when they brought out the big Titantron, you're like, oh, and they did the whole first hour being Raw and the second hour being Raw's War. I think that obviously was a huge impact in planting the seeds for the Attitude Era, because you always knew the first hour was going to be solid, whatever, PG kind of wrestling for the kids and everything. But that second hour was when you were going to get the craziness that ended up being the full 2 hours of the Attitude Era in 98, 99. But,
right.
Yeah,
well, like, but like, for my point, going off of your Bret Hart snapping thing, Raw is War debuted just a week before.
Exactly, and that set and everything, I think, just debuted the week before too. That new set with the Titantron and everything.
Yep. So I mean, it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, dude. I just think, I don't know, the Hart Foundation. That I will never. I know we're running in circles now, but Austin Bret feud, hands down, dude. That epic.
Now, do you think that the Stone Cold King of the Ring interview is the most iconic promo that they've ever had? And just a simple yes or no, because I want to do. We'll do an entire episode on promos, because God knows there's been enough great, good, and wonderful promos over the years that we can run an entire hour and a half episode on promos.
For that generation, yeah. For the 90s, yeah. That was the best promo of the 90s. Actually, I wouldn't even know what promo would be better than that in the 2000s. Yeah, no, that might be the most iconic promo in WWF history. There was undoubtedly, like, The Rock's a megastar because his Hollywood career and everything. Obviously, like, I think Stone Cold is the most popular wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
Like, Hogan's huge, super popular. He's a household name. The Rock's a household name. More so because of his acting career now. The Rock's a household name, I feel like.
Yeah.
But when it comes straight down to strictly professional wrestling, like, the business was never as hot as it was when Stone Cold was the man in the WWF. And if we're not playing WWF corporate stooges. Let's be realistic. The two biggest stars in both of the biggest companies in the world were Stone Cold and Hollywood Hogan.
No, of course.
And you put those two guys up at the top of they're both two federations at the time, and it was like, okay, those are probably the two biggest stars in professional wrestling. The Rock's huge. Hollywood name, big star, mostly I think more so because his Hollywood career now. Like he's known globally. Brock Lesnar is a huge name. So many people can be big names, but like Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, that's a great debate.
It is. That'd be a hell of a topic to talk about too. Dang.
Stone Cold and Hulkamania, brother.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you got the square circle DNA, man. it just rolls. Everything can be a topic.
You do so many though, because a lot of people would want to debate Austin and The Rock. I get that question all the time, and people get mad at me when I pick Austin. I love The Rock. We'll talk about this in a different day, but I love Austin came first, then I love The Rock. You know?
Yeah, I think for me it was like a 1A 1B almost.
I agree, because there was certain years I really preferred Austin, and there was certain years Austin kind of wore off on me, and I really preferred The Rock. And it was after Austin got run over by a car. But
I did it for The Rock.
I did it for the people. Shut up, you thong-wearing fatty. But guys, I think that's our episode about when the Attitude Era started. I know a lot of you might be a little upset because we didn't really talk about the Attitude Era generally, but we're going to break down the Monday Wars year by year. We'll talk about 90 to 99 and our favorite angles from those years and stuff. We would just really want to touch on what moments and when we thought the Attitude Era started. You know, for Just Danny over there, it was the Pillman 9mm segment with Stone Cold and Pillman. For me, Justin, aka the Wrestling Classic, it was Brett snapping, I think. I know for a lot of you, it was the Austin 316 promo. It was Austin stunning McMahon at Madison Square Garden. It might have been the WrestleMania 14. I don't know. For some of you, it might have been the debut of Kane. It depends who you were bigger fans of growing up. But for me, growing up an avid, hardcore Canadian Bret Hart fan, where I looked up to this guy, cried when I first met him when I was a little baby kid. Like, seeing him turn into a bad guy and lose his shit, that was so unlikely of his character that it was like, oh my God. That's different. Like,
yeah, because you didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, well, whatever. All bets are off now. I don't know what's going on. I have to watch next week.
Exactly.
That's what Vince Russo was like, bro, the Attitude Era in 97 was must-see TV.
That you had the shock value, man. And why
we did it? We did it for the brand with the swerve, bro.
Nobody saw it coming. But I can't do a New York accent. I'm too Canadian for that shit.
I don't know if it might even sounded worth it. Damn, I'll hear it when I run it back.
You sounded like him. Why was it when one last time? That's why I thought it was a Brett thing. Why was it the Pillman thing for you?
It was the Pillman thing for me because, dude, that was the most reality-based thing that you had ever seen in professional wrestling at that time. And I think that they said that was the catalyst for me of when WWF was going, okay. And obviously, you guys can't see this, but, Justin can see this. He goes, okay, so the line's here. Let's see what happens when we go over this way.
That was them
cross the line.
Them testing the waters, right?
Right, because they have been testing it different ways with Goldust.
Yeah.
Because you have different avenues that you can travel to cross that path, right? Yeah. It's a city grid, so to speak. And they were testing it with Goldust, and then they got pushback.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys are going too far with Goldust. You got to pull back, which is why he started doing all the weird shit.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys listen to Bruce Pritchard talk about Goldust, I think that's like a 7-hour show, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's good. Because the Goldust character is so freaking interesting to me. And like even to this day, I told you I've been starting to rewatch the 95 and 90, starting like the Monday Night Wars era and stuff again. So like when we break these shows down, we're good. But man, I'm telling you, I watched some of this old Goldust stuff, and no pun intended, but that stuff is just gold, man.
No pun intended. It was just
But
Bill.
you know what I mean? Like that's the only thing that I can. That's the only expression I can use. It was so good. Like to even where I watch it now, and I'm like, damn, that was good. Even for how long ago was that? 22 years now. Damn, that was good.
It's been 20
Damn, I'm old.
over 2 decades, and we'll start talking about that era, man. And yeah. So yeah, no, you're right, man. That Pillman thing was a huge point of them, saying let's try to test out how far we can go. And what I said, we're going to try to avoid talking about WCW, but that was them. They knew they had competition. It was time to step up their game, and they did everything. They pulled out pulled out everything. They pulled out everything.
They absolutely did.
Pillman, Brett snapping, and then when Shawn Michaels found a smile and DX got put together, it was balls to the wall, man. So
absolutely, it was.
I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Absolutely. So let's move it forward here because it's getting late. But we're running a little longer than we wanted to because we're so excited about this topic. I want to personally thank all of you guys for tuning into the first episode. Because holy shit, we got almost 5,000 people now that have listened to this show.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I honestly believed it would have been like 200 tops, maybe 300 people were listening, just because I would hope out of my fucking 500,000 followers, at least 300 would support. But
right,
but I would hope. But I think generally, I'm surprised. I was genuinely shocked. Like. I think I woke up one morning. Obviously, you're like 3 hours ahead of me, and I saw your message like, "Yo, 3,000 people listen to our podcast." I'm like, that's insane.
A lot.
That's insane.
Yeah, for the first episode.
Yeah, and it wasn't even good. Like this one might not even be that good either because we're still figuring out a groove. We're still trying to structure this. I think it's a lot better than last week.
It was much more structured. It was a lot better for sure.
We knew what we were talking about. We didn't lose what we were talking about in the first 10 minutes and be like, okay, now we're going to keep this going for the next 20. Just keep this going for...
Start texting each other. Bro!
What are you going to say next? But
4,154.
Appreciate it. All 4,000 of you folks. And as you were telling me, it wasn't just like, United States of America. It was global. Right? You're looking at the stats. There's some people all over the world.
Yeah, we got US and Canada, obviously. Dude, we got China, Brazil, India, Bangkok.
Ni hao. I don't know. I don't know how they say it. I don't know how they say hello in Bangkok.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Hello. Sasrikal namaste. Ni hao. Salam. I don't know.
To me, that's just crazy, man. So, we're gonna try to keep rolling with these. We want to continue to do the live Instagram. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry you couldn't rewatch it if you weren't there. I may have to get a new phone. We're gonna try it again next week and see what happens.
I think the next time we'll try it, I'll kick it off just so that way I can save it on mine. I can save it on mine for the first one, and then tell people to go follow the page because I didn't realize until that one ended that it would have been smarter to save it on mine than to save it on this SCDNA show as for now, just because we want to build a following over there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes total sense. I mean, you can even send it to me, and we'll do it that way.
And as you guys know, that just shows you we're learning as we go. This is
we're just fans, man. We're fans that we love wrestling.
And you guys know, for me specifically, I've tried doing this podcast thing a couple of times, and I think this is the time where I think it has the most potential of actually being a long-term thing for me. I've dropped off of it like twice.
Yeah, see, the problem for Justin now is that I'm not going to allow him to drop off.
Yeah, I get the sarcastic LOLs like almost every day. So I'll be looking at 30 minutes like, okay, LOL. I'm like, oh shit, it's one of those ones. But we're gonna.
Never that.
We made some. I made some sacrifices today to make sure this happens. So we're gonna make sure.
Yeah, we did it. So next week, we'll give you a little preview here. Next week is
Turner.
Gonna keep that going while I introduce it here.
Roman Reigns, Roman. Ooh! Okay, go ahead.
I mean, if you guys didn't get it from there, turn it off now.
We're all gonna go next week.
Just quit.
And I'm
Just
coming
quit
at
it.
you with the Superman punch. Believe that. But that wasn't a Roman voice, by the way. I don't know what.
All 7 of them.
All 7 of them. I'm gonna spear you 8 times. Maybe I'll take a
That's
couple
right.
of F5s and kick out. I don't know.
A couple, almost 10 and kick out. Yeah, who knows? We're talking all about Roman Reigns next week, guys.
Everyone's favorite topic, and if this makes you guys a little bit more excited about it, I actually don't hate Roman Reigns. Next week.
I don't not like. I want to like him.
Next week.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if you guys think it's gonna be one of those podcasts where we come on here and we literally just trash Roman Reigns, I said it many times on the page. I get a lot of heat for it. I actually don't dislike Roman Reigns, so it's gonna be interesting because I think a lot of people are probably like, "Oh, they're talking about Roman Reigns. They're gonna talk about how shitty he's been booked." Yeah, we are, but like,
right. We're gonna be posting clips all week.
Yeah, and I'm
all week long.
But I'm not gonna sit there and be like, Roman Reigns sucks. So it'll be interesting.
That's true. It's great. I can't wait. Guys, tune in next week. Podcast up every single Sunday. iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Yeah, our podcast is on Twitch, which is kind of weird, but it's kind of cool as well.
Is it?
Yeah, I put it up there.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, dude, I'm putting it everywhere. I'm whoring ourselves. We're completely whored out now. We're all over
Danny
the place.
is the godfather of our podcast. He's pimping this shit.
I am the pimp of this production. Pay up, bitch.
It's hot out here for a pimp.
Whoop that trick.
I'm glad you got the reference. A lot of people probably went out singing some hustle and flow. But guys, we need to end this. Attitude Era is great. We kicked off next week. Roman Reigns, SCDNA Show on Instagram. Roman Reigns posts will be going up all week.
It's gonna be fun, man.
Where can they find you, Danny?
Real Danny B. I mean, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. That's my personal page. I've kind of taken a break from it because my sole focus is getting this bad boy. I need to oil. I want to get all of the cylinders and all of the pistons oiled and ready to rock and roll. So Square Circle DNA is pretty much where I live right now. I do post random things on my page from time to time. A lot more music stuff and a lot of pictures of my fiance because somebody needs to sponsor her. I'm gonna drop that shit every single week.
Somebody needs to sponsor her.
Somebody needs to get her some shit, man. Yeah, Real Danny B.
You can find me at Justin Dillon. That's my personal page. I don't really post much on there. I went MIA on there for like 3 years when I started the Wrestling Classic. But on that note, you can find me at the Wrestling Classic. And yeah, man, I think you guys already know that. WrestlingClassic.com. We got reviews and predictions up all the time before and after Raw, SmackDowns, and pay-per-views. I have my own YouTube channel. You can go on there and you can check out my interviews with like Sean Mooney and Rikishi and Sheamus and Jinder Mahal and stuff. I hope to do more of those in the future. But stuff like Danny right now, one of my biggest main priorities is getting this podcast off the floor. So make sure you know what to expect at the Wrestling Classic. I'm pretty sure most of you already follow it. Take the support you have from me there and take it to the SCDNA Show Instagram page too. We want to hit up like we want to get 10K as fast as we can because the moment we get to 10K there, the more things we can do, you know, and I'm saying that from experience because I know that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely, guys. Appreciate the love, guys.
Appreciate everyone that listened last time too. Keep listening to this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, Roman Reigns. Start cocking your fists all week, guys. Get ready. Keep cocking them fists. Cock them.
Ooh.
Have a good one. Ooh, yeah, huh?